Hello and welcome to a tag video where we go back in time in Paige's reading career and we take a trip down memory book lane. This tag is called, ironically, as I just said without realizing it, a trip down memory lane tag. And the tag was created by Becca, the book reviewer, and I was tagged by Jamie from Ermagerd Books. And so we shall begin. What is the first novel you remember reading? And I tried going back into the depths of my brain, and I think one of the first books that I remember reading that was chapter book would be Where the Red Fern Grows. I read that in 4th grade, so however old you are then. That was one of the first books that just hit me in the feels, and if you are an animal lover and you have not read that book, first of all, what are you doing with your life? Second of all, go read it, but be prepared for your emotions because they will be tattered and torn. And that was the first book that I cried. The first book you fell in love with. This has to be Junie B. Jones, and there was a whole big series of them, and it was like Junie B. Jones and the Stinky Smelly Bus, and Junie B. Jones, and da-da-da-da, and basically it took the place of like a 5-year-old, or 6 or something like that, I don't remember, and she's just a troublemaker, and they were short and they were funny, and my mom and I loved reading them together. So because she was doing the reading and I didn't have to read, I could just enjoy the story. What was your favorite children's storybook? I distinctly remember being younger, and I think my favorite book would have to be The Big Red Barn. It's basically just a barn and you like count all the animals, and I remember like there was like kitties, and that's all I really remember. I just remember the kitties in the barn, and apparently my parents said that like for each animal I had to make how many noises for how many animals there were. So I've always loved animals. I've been an animal lover my whole life. What is the first book you became obsessed with? And without a doubt, that would have to be Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. And yes, who wasn't when the book came out? I had 2 shirts. One said Team Edward, one said Bitten by Twilight, and then, you know in the movie how Bella has that charm bracelet and Edward gives her like a diamond or a crystal heart, and then Jacob carves a wooden wolf? I had that bracelet. I still have it in the depths of my jewelry box, just laying there nicely, but I used to wear those shirts and that bracelet. What was the first book that taught you something about yourself? And this book, it wasn't really until recently. You know, I'd always read books for a good story, but, well, kinda-ish. It wasn't until 2 years ago, like right before I started making this channel, that I really loved reading. So the first book that kind of taught me something about myself is I was really able to connect with Tessa from the Infernal Devices. And there's just quotes and sayings in there that just at that moment in time in my life, very poignant to me and that I loved. And so the Infernal Devices, great book, but it will always have a special place in my heart just because of what it taught me about myself. A book you will always remember reading for the first time, and this would have to be Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce. As I've said in previous other videos, I used to really not like reading, and I remember my mom gave me the Wild Magic book and thinking I'm an animal lover that I'd really like it, but I was like, psh, I don't want to read, that's for people who aren't me. And so it kind of stood in my bookshelf for a long time, and it was probably after like 2 years after they got it for me. I was like, well, let's just see what this is about. And I remember being like, oh my god, my parents are right, and having that moment when you're like 12, 13 of like, oh my god, how do I tell them that they were right without actually telling them, like, I really want to like this book but I'm not sure, and then I just gave in and I was just like, yeah, I really loved it. And they're like, see, we told you you like it. So I loved Wild Magic and that Tamora Pierce Tortall series. Love it. What is the first classic you have read? And to me, because I would consider them a classic, like they're not your quintessential classics, I don't think, but I consider Nancy Drew a classic, and I remember reading Nancy Drew in 5th grade. I loved Nancy Drew. I got the computer games, and it was all great fun. The first book to movie adaptation you saw. So that's going to be, for me, again, Twilight. I mean, I had seen Harry Potter, but I hadn't read Harry Potter. I still haven't read Harry Potter. So I don't consider that like the book to movie adaptation because I've only seen the movie. So the first like series that I read the book and then I watched the movie probably had to be Twilight. I am going to tag 3 people, and those people are going to be Jessica from Price is Wong, Tzivi from Cookieaddictions, and Dani from Performing Bookfelf. So I hope that they enjoy this tag and want to do it. So that is it for today. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Goodreads, Tumblr, and Twitter. And until next time, bye! My top 10 books that I read in 2014. It was hard to justify it down to 10 books, but I did, and